Hello, gay men, and welcome to another episode of Coming Inside Out. I'm your host, Mark Dembo, along with my co-host, Brian Janes. How are you today, Brian?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I just came back
Good.
from vacation. I was away last week down in Wilton Manors and had a gay old time, as they say.
I saw your post. Good for you. It looked like you had a good time.
It was nice. You know what? It really was just a really, really nice getaway. And, any opportunity to be in, a space where, it's just open and welcoming is really nice. And it was, really, really nice time. And it was after the weather and winter that we've had here in the Northeast. It was
Yes.
nice to get a few days of some really nice sunshine. Yeah.
Good for you. Good for you, buddy. I was out with my gay dads group last night, but I'm gonna save that for later on in the podcast because I think we're gonna talk about something similar to my experience.
All
So
right.
I'll
Cool.
save it for then.
Yeah. And, so as we were talking about before we hit the record button today, we had such a great response from our last episode of Letters from the Closet, as we called the episode, where we were taking questions from all of our great listeners and viewers. And we're going to do a part 2 of that today because we've received more questions and comments. And, I think we kind of ended the last one saying, hey, give us some fun questions. So I think we've got a good mix of some things to kind of dive into today.
Yes, and these are coming in through email, through YouTube, through Apple, through Spotify. They're coming in through a lot of different platforms.
Yeah.
So I tried to capture as many of them as I could. Unfortunately, we can't read all of them, so we just kind of threw together a mixture of them. So,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah. And as always, we encourage all of you to continue to write in and share your comments, your questions, and yeah, we'll just continue to go with that. So let's see. You wanna kick us off with our first
Sure.
listener question today?
Kick us off with the first one. Someone wrote in, just stumbled across your podcast and felt like I was reading my journal entries to my therapist. I'm a 62-year-old gay plus one man who is romantically attached to his wife of 40 years, but have sexual desires for men. We have 2 daughters and 1 granddaughter. I invited my wife into my world 6 years ago and then together led our daughters into our mixed-oriented lavender marriage 2 years ago. We are navigating this roller coaster ride. We are making it work. We look forward to hearing your other episodes. Keep up the great work. So I don't know if it was as much of a question or just letting us know that he resonates with the podcast. And I thought it was interesting because I had never heard the term lavender marriage before. I had to look that up. So I'm thinking if it's a lavender marriage, maybe he and his wife have both come out as gay. I don't know.
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing because a lavender marriage typically is referring to when both partners are, queer, gay, bi in some manner. So I don't know if he meant that specifically or was just referring to that they're in, what would traditionally be called or more a mixed orientation marriage, right? Where
Yes.
one spouse is gay and one spouse is straight. But either way, first off, thanks for writing in and sharing your experience. And it's great that you've been able to invite your wife into your world and that you are making it work. And there are quite a few people, quite a few couples that are able to make that work. And
it's just another example of how people's relationships are able to evolve. Not everybody has to come out as gay, blow up their family, get divorced, go through this whole process. There's multiple different types of marriages that continue on.
That's a really important point. And I think one of the other comments, that we'll talk about as well kind of gets at, different relationships and how people, and that's, the thing that I come back to again and again and again and again is there is no one set way that a relationship has to be.
Yes.
Whether it's being in a mixed orientation marriage, if it's in a lavender marriage, if it's in an open relationship, if it's in a other kind of, relationship. All of those things are up for everybody to decide what works best for them.
Yes. I saw that you
Yeah.
went round and round with somebody on YouTube commenting back and
Yeah.
forth about
Yeah.
what
Well,
is
yeah. And I know
acceptable
we
as
kind of
far as the
had that.
relation.
Yeah, and we kind of had that here. I mean, we can kind of, as we're talking about that, one listener wrote in or commented on, I think it was on YouTube, and we had a little bit of an exchange. I mean, actually, very, very civil
Yes.
exchange. But the question that was posed, since we're talking about relationship types here, was, can gay men ever trust their partner to be monogamous? Or is
Mm.
monogamy in the queer community but a myth?
Oh, can I can I comment on that really quick? Just the whole
Yes.
trust thing, because this just came up recently. A couple committed to making the relationship work, and they both agreed that they were going to stop taking medications to protect themselves
Mm-hmm.
sexually because they
Mm-hmm.
feel that there's enough trust between them
Mm-hmm.
that they don't need to continue taking these medications. And I thought, wow, that's huge.
Yeah.
That is a major step in a relationship when you can actually trust your partner when they tell you they're going to be monogamous, and when you tell them you're going to be monogamous, that you actually are, that trust still exists out there. I think I've shared in the past, I never had protection when I was with my wife. My
Sure.
wife and I
Right.
trusted
Right.
that we were
Of
never
course.
cheating on one another, and we were
Right.
going to have to worry about sexually transmitted
Yeah.
diseases between us. So I think it's important that people do realize that, yes, there are a lot of monogamous gay relationships out there where people are trusting their partners in not having to protect themselves because that trust
Right.
exists.
Right. And I think it's an interesting and important question. And I also think it's interesting how this listener posed the question: can gay men ever trust their partner to be monogamous? And that says a couple of things to me. Or is monogamy in the queer community but a myth? First of all, it's not a myth.
No.
I know, to your point too, Brian, I know several married. As my microphone falls, several married gay couples that are monogamous, and they, just as any relationship, hetero, gay, whatever, monogamy, that is the way they operate. To me, though, the underlying piece of this question, and maybe I'm reading more into it, is that monogamy is the proper form of relationship.
Oh, yeah.
To me, that's kind of what I am, because the first part, can you trust your partner to be monogamous, and then saying, is monogamy but a myth? Um, to me, I come back to, that is up for each couple to
Yes.
decide what is right for them, and letting go of this heteronormative societal expectation that monogamy is the only or the highest form of relationship.
Yeah.
It's up to each couple to decide what is best for them. And
Yes.
if you're in another form of relationship, that can work as well, as long as you communicate. Where things fall apart, and I am by no means an expert in this, but from what I've seen and listening and talking to other people who are experts, where things fall apart is when there isn't the communication. There isn't the understanding. There isn't the trust. Even in an open relationship, you have to have trust in your other partner.
Yes. Totally agree.
Yeah.
And to each his own, and there is no hierarchy in the gay community
Right.
as
Yeah.
far as relationships are concerned. It's
Yeah.
whatever works for you and your partner, and if it
Yeah.
doesn't work, you move on.
Yeah. And the other, I think, if that whole, there were a number of comments in that exchange on YouTube, and if I'm remembering correctly, one of the comments was made was about, well, how does it help? And I'm paraphrasing, so hopefully I'm getting this right. Gay couples that want to have kids, whether it's through surrogacy or adoption or whatever, if there's this whole myth, whatever you want to call it, around gay men all being promiscuous and in these crazy relationships. And I would say that I have seen or aware of gay men married that have kids that still have some form of open relationship.
Yes.
Because what they decide to do, and it doesn't mean you're out there, screaming it, to the world. There's another podcast, Dads and Daddies podcast. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Another great podcast, yes. by the way. And the two guys that host that podcast, they're friends, but they are both. Wait, are they both married? I'm trying to remember. I know one of them is married, and they have an open relationship, and they have kids, and they've talked about how they manage that. So again, it comes back to you figure out what works,
yes,
for you. You can and be able to have that trust in your partner and that understanding.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right, you're up, Mark.
Am I up? Okay, let's see.
Yeah. This is a good one too. This guy wrote back in.
Yeah, so this is actually from a listener who had written it before. Hey guys, thanks for answering my question. I really appreciated it. Totally agree what you said about therapy. Having a therapist who's gay makes a huge difference. This is my third therapist, but my first one who's gay, and it's been a game changer in the best way. Really glad to hear that for you.
Yes.
And he goes on to say, a fun question for you two. How do you stop yourself from buying way too many jock straps? Or is that just part of the process? Asking for a friend, wink, wink.
I think that's part of the process because my underwear drawer may be the largest drawer in my dresser. I don't know. That just happens to be me.
I'm not going to disagree with that. I mean, I haven't seen your underwear drawer, but yes. But I think it actually, on the one hand, yeah, it's kind of a fun little question that he's asking here. On the other hand, I think it becomes a form of expression.
Yes.
And, one of the ways of building that new identity, right? I mean, absolutely. I can tell you when I first came out, one of the first things I did was like replace all my underwear.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And
I went to the Andrew Christian store, I think is what it's called. And I bought a whole bunch of
yeah,
yes.
Absolutely. So, and jock straps, can you have too many?
Yeah. No, I don't think so. And maybe it's a way of expressing and celebrating yourself
exactly
more on the inside than, having to walk around advertising on the outside. It gives you a sense of, your sexuality and just who you are as a person. You're celebrating it. And not everybody is seeing it unless, of course, you go to a gay bar, then it's on display for everybody.
Listen, jockstrap night at the Eagle, you don't want to wear the same one twice because
I go there fully clothed. I do not walk around in a jockstrap.
But I
haven't
agree.
gotten there yet.
But but being able to have fun underwear, sexy underwear on when you're even in a business setting and knowing like, hey, this is an expression of who I am. I think it's absolutely part of the process, and go for it. Go for it. It makes you feel good. Do it. Exactly. Enjoy it. Yeah.
All right. This next one's a little heavier. And it's a conversation I had with somebody online. So I'm also paraphrasing. Basically, this person is I think in their late 50s. He has lived in the closet his entire life. And I bring this up because he's not the only person that has brought this to me. His mother is getting ready to pass, and he has been wanting to come out for the last couple of years and is questioning if he should come out to his mother, if now is the time that he needs to come out. He's had all these signs, he's been pulled in many directions to come out. It's how he feels, and he's wondering, is he going to regret that he didn't take this time to come out to his mother before she passes? And I've had conversations with people that have told me, oh my God, I wish that I had been able to
Yeah.
come out to my parents before they died. And then I have people say to me that they would have never come out to their parents before they died. So it's kind of something that if you have the opportunity and you feel like you're going to regret it later, I mean, I'm not a therapist. So again, I'm not telling somebody what to do, but it feels like if you do it, you're not going to live in regret of robbing yourself of that before they pass. So they wrote that in. I'm going to turn that over to you and get your thoughts on that too.
And I will tell you, it is something that I myself struggled with or debated. My father passed away about 6 months ago, and I had debated. I mean, prior to that, did I want to come out to them? My mom is still alive. She has dementia. And my dad had some cognitive impairment as well in the final years of his life. And honestly, I was very much on the fence as to whether or not I was going to come out to them, and not in my case, again, not for me to give advice, but in my case, because they both had, various issues, I wasn't sure if they would fully understand, if they would comprehend. But I did, about a year ago. I was visiting with my folks, and happened to be alone with my father at one point. And at this point, we were my wife and I were in the process of separating. And so I told him, I said, "Hey, Dad, want to share with you that we're separating," and then proceeded to tell him why. That because I have come out as gay. In hindsight, for me, am I glad I told him? Yes, I am. Because I, especially because we were, separating, and and she had been such a part of the family for over 30 years. They, loved her like a daughter. Wanted them to understand why. So, but I think again, it's an individual choice, and you've got to look at your whole situation. But I think the question of asking yourself, right, when your parents pass, will you regret it if you haven't come out to them? That's the question to ask yourself. And then you've got to go with what your heart and your gut tells you is the right thing to do.
I think if you're asking yourself, you already kind of know. If you're questioning it, if it's coming up, but if it's something that is on your mind, I think you kind of already have an answer, and it's just whether or not you're going to resist it.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point. Right. I mean, if you're asking yourself, you could be asking yourself the question, and the answer might be, it's a hard no for whatever reason.
Yes.
Then go with that.
Absolutely.
But I think, right, if you're asking yourself the question and you're kind of debating it with yourself, then maybe that's kind of telling you what the answer is.
I agree. Yes.
Yeah. Let's see. Who's got the next one here? Is it me?
You do.
Next listener writes in, appreciate you creating a space where a grown man can quietly spiral in his car on the way home from work. Ha. I just discovered your podcast a few weeks ago. I'm practically shitting myself how close this hits to home. Early 40s, married, kids, solid life on the outside. The episode about living two lives landed hard for me. I've always told myself I was bi, but never acted on it. Now I'm questioning everything because I fantasize about men and think about who I might be if I wasn't married and I've asked myself all the same questions. I don't even know if I have a question. Maybe this is just a shout out to say you got me, you found me, and I can't wait to hear more.
Mm.
So again, not a specific question here, but
No. But we got a lot of that this last week or these last 2 weeks. We've got a lot. That last episode where we read people's letters to us
yeah,
really caught a
yeah,
lot of people's attention, pulled at them.
yeah,
And so many people, I mean, in so many different ways, through email, through phone calls, through text messages, just in so many ways, people reach out to me. I know they did the same for you. Or this is landing with the people it needs to land with. I'm so
yeah.
happy that this is helping people.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say to, again, to this listener, thank you for, for sharing that. And we're glad that the podcast is helping you. And again, it's just, if it's a help to know that, hey, you're not alone in what you're dealing with. And, that talking about quietly spiraling in your car on the way home from work, right? We've talked about that. I can totally relate. I've had, similar situations myself where it's just that spiraling, that wondering what you're doing with your life. There's no one path to take, but just to know that you're not alone, and
Yes.
just listening to a podcast like this or other podcasts or other resources, that's a step on the journey.
Yeah. And that you're not crazy because you are
Yeah.
creating two worlds or
Yeah.
living two separate lives.
Yeah.
And when that person wrote in last week and I told you, oh my God, this like hits so close to home for me because that's exactly how I felt. They described it perfectly. I felt the same way. I don't know if you and I covered this, but I talked about this once before on a podcast because a couple people had reached out to me about something like this. And I actually had a similar experience with this with one of my kids, but his face wasn't in the photo. But this guy wrote in and said he found our podcast a few weeks ago. He's been listening. He just came across the episode where we talked about blackmail. Someone attempted that on him years ago. Long story short, he says the motherfuckers actually did it and sent his dick pics to his wife. This had happened to somebody I actually know who was living in the closet, who had befriended somebody online, who gave them their name or whatever. And this person did a deep dive into them on social media. They found out who their wife was, where their wife worked, who their kids were, and threatened that if they didn't send them $5,000, that they were going to release these photos. And not wanting to give somebody $5,000, knowing if that was going to be the end of it, they went home and their relationship ended that evening in a conversation with his wife because this person was going to be sending his
Yeah.
wife the dick pics and all the correspondence the two of them had been having. I've heard that a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes on to say that for him, he had come out to his wife 6 months earlier, so it wasn't as much of a shock, and he just had to tell her basically, they're sending these pics to you. And he said the threat was real. So to anybody who's sending pics, maybe send them without your face. Is my advice to you. And he just feels bad because he's also heard that a number of men have ended up losing everything in minutes
Yeah.
because these scammers are out there gaining your trust, getting you
Yeah.
to expose yourself so they can turn around and use it against you.
Yeah. Yeah. The other point, he also just, he had come out to his wife. She wasn't in shock, but said they were also going to send the pics to their kids.
Yes.
So he had to tell his daughter right then. Yeah, I think the advice, the word here is be careful, because this shit is real. I've heard stories just as you've shared as well of where this has really happened, and people have been forced out, aside from if it's costing you money, if you're paying them or not paying them. But to your point, Brian, right? If you're going to send stuff, don't send. If you're concerned about it, then don't send a dick pic with your face in it.
Yeah.
Also be really, I mean, this is, be really, really careful. If you're on an app and somebody says, hey, do you have this app or that app, or give me your phone number and let's go, like, nope, don't do that. Keep it on, keep it on the apps. Until you've met somebody and know you can trust them. I think you've got to be really, really, really careful.
Yes. Well, on the apps, it's all very visual. So people are posting a lot. And if you don't mind and you're out and you want your face in it, put your face in it. I
Well,
really
right,
don't
right,
care.
right.
But
No,
I
absolutely.
just,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not a dick pic type person. But if I was going to send one, it wouldn't include my face.
Yeah. You got to be careful, especially again, if it's, if you don't know and
Stranger.
you're, and you're still
Yes.
in that kind of situation, you definitely need to be careful. Yes, indeed. All right. So I'm going to read this next comment.
Okay. All right.
And I'm going to
Okay.
let you reply to it, Brian. Okay.
All right.
I guess this isn't really a question per se, but a very pointed comment that we did receive from a listener. This listener writes in, it's always the guys with the most feminine voices and mannerisms that reject other gays as being, quote, too feminine. Brian needs to take a good look inside. He's still clinging to the heteronormative ideas that, one, feminine men are less than ideal, aka I'm not gay because I don't think I act gay. And two, committed monogamy is the correct or ideal type of relationship. And he wonders why he's having a hard time dating.
I appreciate the comment. I appreciate people writing in and calling me on my shit if it's something I need to look at. What I would like to say about this, because I have shared before, and this isn't a secret because I've shared with you, I've shared with my friends, I am not attracted to a man who has feminine qualities. I like a masculine man. It's no different than if you said, I don't like men with a lot of hair, or if someone says, I like a man with a lot of hair. That's
Right.
mine,
Yeah.
100% my own how what makes me attracted to another person. So I have friends that are very feminine. I am probably more feminine than a lot of my friends. It doesn't bother me. I don't have a problem with anybody like that. It's just not somebody I feel like I want to date. I don't think that's why I'm single. I think I'm single because, yes, I set the bar pretty high, but I don't think that's why I'm single. And to each his own. I want a monogamous relationship. Not
Yeah.
everybody wants a monogamous
Right.
relationship. So
Right.
I'm not calling anybody out. I'm not judging anybody. It's just how I personally feel.
Yeah.
I prefer a taller man. It doesn't mean that I'm going to be single forever or, I'm sliding on the gay community because there's shorter men in it any differently than their mannerisms. So, thank you for writing in. Thank you for calling me on my stuff. I'm happy to look at it. If I offended somebody because they have a more feminine mannerism, I apologize. It's not that I don't like you. It's that it's not a quality that I see for myself in a
Yeah.
partner.
And that's a great point. People talk about sometimes that, the gay community, if it's as if it's this monolithic thing, right? Do you talk about the hetero community and expect that everybody's the same, right?
Yes.
You've got different preferences, different choices. Everybody's got their own stuff that's going to be right for them. Absolutely. Yeah. And we've talked about the stuff around monogamy and right. It's what's right for you.
Yes.
So the next question that comes in says, hey guys, loving the podcast. It's honestly been equal parts therapy and emotional chaos in a good way. Quick question. At what point should I be concerned that my Amazon and Instagram algorithms have fully clocked me. I love that. Like, I went from buying normal guy clothes to suddenly owning multiple tank tops, shorter shorts than I ever thought I'd wear, and an unexpected number of jock straps. There we go. Jock straps coming up again. Is this just part of the process, or do I need to rein it in? Um, I love that. I love that that question. I mean, we've talked a little bit about the jockstrap question, but I love that question about the algorithms finding you.
That is definitely true for me also. It's funny, this goes back maybe a year ago. I don't search up stuff on Instagram. I just basically like swipe and look at stuff, and someone said, "Oh, look this up on Instagram," and I found the little icon for it. I click on it. When I click on it for the search bar to pop up, it was all men.
Oh yeah.
It was
Yep.
all what I liked. It was nothing
Yes.
I had searched for, but
Yeah.
it was just the whole thing was men, and I was like, "What?" And I didn't understand at first, but I thought that is so funny. That Instagram knows me, knows everything I liked, and
Oh,
it fills it
absolutely.
all
And
in for me.
and I'm sure, I mean, to that point, you can relate to this, and I'm sure many of our listeners can relate. I remember the day when I opened up my Instagram feed and Facebook feed, and all of a sudden I realized, oh, the internet's figured out I'm gay.
Yeah.
It's like
Oh,
all of a sudden, I'm talking about underwear, right? All these underwear ads popping up on my Facebook feed. I go to my
yes.
Instagram feed, and it's um,
The
one guy after
movies.
another. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So the question, so the listener asks the question: at what point should I be concerned? I don't know. Does that concern you? It depends
Well, if you're in the
where you are.
closet, it might concern you
Right,
because then if
right,
you're looking something up on your phone in front of somebody else, they're going to see what
right.
pops up.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
if you're
Although he does
not,
say he went from buying normal guy clothes to owning multiple tank tops, shorter shorts than I ever thought I'd wear. Yep, been there. So do you need to rein it in? Again, go back. You know what? I think that's part of the process. And if I mean, again, look, if you're concerned about that stuff, then what you do is when you're doing those kinds of searches, do it in incognito mode, because then it's not capturing the
oh,
cookies and stuff, because that's how the
I
the algorithms work.
I know that that's an option on my
Yeah,
phone. I don't know if it's an option on my computer. I know it's an option on
yeah.
my phone. I've never used it before. I
Yeah,
just delete the
Chrome,
history.
Safari, any of the big browsers have an incognito mode, so it's not,
Okay.
it doesn't make it completely invisible, but it's not tracking, cookies in the same way. So
Okay.
so all the advertising isn't going to pick up, your previous searches. But
Yes.
I mean, I don't know. To me, I think it's just that's part of the process. It's yeah, yeah. I remember that day when I was like, yep, just figured out I'm gay. I was like,
Yeah.
okay.
God, me too. Holy crap, Mark. Wow. All right, we got one more here, and this one I have some input on this one. They wrote in, "Hey, Mark and Brian, I'm early in all of this and had my first experience going to a gay bar recently, and I have to ask, is it normal to feel like you're both incredibly excited and also internally panicked the entire time? I swear I didn't know where to look, how to stand, what to do with my hands. Meanwhile, trying to act like I totally belong there. Does this ever go away, or is it just my personality now?" Mm. I was out with my buddies last night. I'm going to go first on this
Go
one
ahead.
just because
Yeah, go
you and
ahead.
I were talking before the podcast.
Yeah.
I was out with my gay group last night. We went to the Eagle, a gay bar here in Los Angeles. I always feel out of place when I go to gay bars. Get down there, and that's me 6 years later, not knowing how to stand, not knowing what to put my hand in my pocket, or someone told me, "Oh, don't put your hand in your pocket because that means that you're guarded, or you're less approachable. You want to seem more approachable." So I am literally in my mind the whole time I'm there, um I have a hard time at gay bars. It's as much as I like the opportunity to freely be able to look at other men, to admire them, to admire their body, to admire their features. I love that part of it, but I equally, 6 years into this, still feel very awkward at a gay bar.
What makes you feel awkward?
That's just how I feel. I really have to give myself a pep talk before I go to a gay bar. I went with a group of people, and when the invite first came out, I was like, ah, shit, I don't want to go. I'll think of a reason not to go. And I ended up going. I called my friend on the way there, kicking and screaming a little bit, but I get in there and I just don't feel like I fit in. I don't know why.
And is it specifically being in a gay bar, or is it be like if you were in just a regular
Well,
bar, a not gay bar, would you feel the same way?
okay, so going to Palm Springs, I go to street bar where everybody's clothed, where everybody's kind of looks more,
Yeah.
I don't know, but different. When you go to the Eagle, there's a portion of the men that don't have their shirts on,
Oh,
or
sure. Okay.
it's just
Yeah.
a very different element. I don't know. I don't want to get myself in trouble with the listeners again. It just is a very different
No, 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 no.
experience.
But I okay.
So,
So I think there's an important distinction here, right? Because again, what when you talk about a gay bar, well, not every gay bar is the Eagle. I mean, there's the Eagle, here in New York
yes.
City, same thing. You go into the Eagle, not everybody, but there's going to be a lot of guys that are there in nothing but a jockstrap.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
depending on the time of night and where you are
Yes.
in the bar, they may not even be in that, right?
Yes.
So that's one thing. But then, like here in New York, there's a number of gay bars that I'll go to occasionally. There's one place I like in Hell's Kitchen, in New York, and it's just a friendly bar that happens to be gay, right?
Yes.
It's and are people picking each up, getting picked up there? Absolutely, but it's also a place where people just go and have drinks and enjoy. So I think it all depends on,
The
right,
type.
the type
Yes.
of bar.
So he didn't say what type of bar he
No,
went
right,
to.
right,
He
right.
just said that he went to a gay bar.
But I remember the first time I went to a gay bar by myself, and I was in the city. I had recently, I think it was like after I'd come out to myself. I don't even think I was, out to anybody else yet. Um, and I decided to go into a gay bar. And that at first I had that, oh my God, this is so scary. I don't know what I'm walking into. And I think it was a Tuesday night. It was not very busy. I just sat at the bar, had a drink. And before I knew it, I had struck up a conversation with somebody, and we just had, really nice. There was nothing more than just a nice chat. And I was like, wow. And the more I started going to other, gay bars, I just found myself feeling more and more comfortable because I felt like I didn't have to pretend I was somebody else.
Yes. I get it. I totally
Yeah.
get it. And I
And
think it's a
sorry, yeah.
no, you go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna kind of finish that thought. This past week, I was away on vacation, and I was down in Wilton Manors, for a few days, and I was on my own. I was by myself, and going into some of the bars, there on my own, again, very similar. I just felt very comfortable. I wasn't looking to,
Mhm.
hook up, and it's just being in the environment. So I think, if we go back to kind of the our listeners' questions, that normally feel like you're both incredibly excited and internally panicked the entire time. Yeah, I think that's normal.
Yes.
I think
I
that's
agree.
normal. Yeah.
I agree.
And do what you're comfortable with.
Yeah. I mean, aside from the Eagle, I'll sometimes take my dog to West Hollywood and I'll walk around down there. And there's several bars and restaurants that have patio seating on the sidewalk, and I'll occasionally stop. I'll have a margarita. My dog will
Sure.
sit outside with me. I'm more relaxed in that
Yeah.
environment
Right.
where I'm just sitting outside with my dog, people passing on the street versus going to a bar like the Eagle.
Right.
I'm
Right.
more anxious when I do
Yeah.
that.
And I'll also add, the bar scene isn't for everybody, right? We've talked
Yeah.
about, I know we've talked about, just finding community, but sometimes good, bad, or indifferent, the gay bar scene is oftentimes, where people find and meet people, but it
Yes.
doesn't mean it's the only way to meet people either.
Well, at a place like the Eagle, it's more of a hookup,
Well,
isn't it? Is
it
it
depends.
not?
It can be. Certainly it doesn't have to be. It's, I know like the Eagle here in New York. Yeah. Yes, there is that element to it, but it's also people go dancing and and I think more than anything, it is about being able to be free and
Mm,
expressive of who you are without
yes.
judgments.
Yes.
Without judgment. You go to the,
100%.
and again, I can't speak to, I know there's Eagle, they're all independent. They just all use the same name in different cities. As I said, there's one down in Wilton Manors, there's one in LA, there's New York. Um, you go at least, to New York and yep, as I said, there's a lot of guys in harness, jock straps,
Mm,
but it's all ages, all body types, and there's no judgment.
exactly. Yes. You're free to be
Yeah,
you
yeah,
without judgment. I
yeah,
love that. I love that about our
yeah,
community
yeah,
and that aspect. It's like, yes, you can go to a bar, you could be 300 pounds and take your shirt off and walk around in your underwear.
exactly,
If that's you, do it.
exactly. That's it. Yeah. Well, this is really, a lot of fun answering questions and responding to our viewers and listeners' comments and emails. So keep them coming, everybody. Write to us at cominginsideout@gmail.com. And please like us on your favorite podcast platform and share this with others for whom this would be of interest. It helps us spread the word and reach more and more people.
Yes. I want to add something before we go. And I think I shared this with you. We usually upload our podcast on Tuesdays. We actually ended up uploading our podcast because we couldn't get it to upload until Thursday of last week or the week before. And a couple hours after it uploads, I always go in and make sure it's streaming on all the platforms and everything's moving forward. And I checked the stats on it, and I think I shared with you. When I looked, it tells you, every country, city, it breaks it down as to where it's being downloaded. And our number one download 2 Thursdays ago was in Singapore.
Really?
Yes. Singapore
Interesting.
was the number one place that our podcast was streaming for those few hours, followed by Los Angeles.
Hmm.
So I thought that was really kind of cool.
All right, Brian.
Much love to you, buddy. And
You as
can't
well.
wait to catch up and hear from our listeners. Definitely
All
keep
right.
writing in.
All right.
Yeah. All
Till
right.
next
Thank you.
time. Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye.